Welcome back. I'm Joyful. Today we're going to be building a bakery. We'll also be talking about school, particularly what I don't like about it. Off camera, I went ahead and gathered some resources that will hopefully be enough for the construction of this bakery. I've chosen a spot as well. Right up here. Obviously, it's been a second since I've been up here. Looks like we'll have to clear the snow off. There we go. Let's start with the frame. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of school. I did really well in school up until about 5th grade. After that, it got a lot harder for me. I didn't really know what to do. My teachers weren't of a lot of help. By freshman year in high school, I had a 1.7 GPA, which is pretty bad. I managed to clean it up to above a 3.0, and then I dropped out my second semester. I started taking online classes on my second semester of freshman year. I liked them a lot more than in-person school. This was a year before COVID. When COVID came around, I found myself very well prepared. Doing online school allowed me to start working. I got my first job at a sandwich shop. And I met a lot of very nice people, some of which I'm still friends with today. By the time I graduated high school, I had kind of no interest in going to university. But I made an agreement with my mother that I would at least try it. I would go to school at university for 1 year, just to see what I thought. Turns out it didn't take long for me to realize that I wouldn't like university any more than I liked high school. After 1 semester, I dropped out. And I went back to working full-time like I was in high school. I do have a couple criticisms of school that do not easily extend to university. My gripe with university is quite unrelated to the points that I'll talk about today. It was less of me hating university and more of just personal issues around university that made me drop out. My apologies. The problem that I have with school is that I love to learn, and I don't feel like I learn in school. And the reason why I say I feel like I don't learn in school, and also why I would say that school is not where you learn, is because school is where you are taught. Which may sound just like a difference in wording, but I will argue is a completely different way of transferring knowledge, of increasing your knowledge. When it comes to learning, our brains are quite literally designed to enjoy it. It's an evolutionary trait of humans to enjoy learning. It's what inspires us to increase our knowledge, to explore the world. And it's a big part of the success of our species. This is why it's so bizarre to me. Why, when I'm talking about education, and learning especially, I get lots of adults who have this idea that kids don't like to learn. That if we don't force kids to learn, kids will never learn on their own. Which seems reasonable on the surface. Kids are quite useless, for lack of a better word. They seem lazy, they just want to play video games all day. Or hang out with their friends or get up to trouble when you're not paying attention. But I feel like this idea that kids don't want to learn stems directly from school and its inadequacies. That it has nothing to do with kids. But back to school. Why do you not learn at school? Why do I say that you are taught at school? You do not learn. Well, I would consider that you do not learn at school. And also I would consider that learning and being taught are two different things due to the conditions that are required for each activity to take place. Learning occurs best, and students learn best when they are internally motivated. They're not motivated by external things solely. They also have a genuine interest in the subject. They learn best when the information is relevant to them. It is not ultra theoretical. They can apply that information. They learn best when they are collaborating and sharing information and sharing that passion for learning with other students who are learning the same thing. And they learn best when the topic was chosen by the student. And so if you're not already seeing where I'm going with this, the conditions for learning are quite the opposite to conditions seen in schools. The conditions in schools, which are also the conditions required for teaching to occur, are an environment that requires focus on the teacher, or on the educator, we can say, to avoid any connotations with the word teacher as a person. The educator, or the instructor, requires focus on them. The students must focus. They cannot be talking to other students. They cannot be engaged in the activities of learning something other than what the teacher is teaching. And the students must be provided some external motivation for teaching to take place. Because, as most often happens, the students who are being taught will not have a desire to learn the subject or an intrinsic motivation. So a motivation must be imparted from outside. That external motivation can take the form of positive and negative motivations. Negative would be if you don't learn or you don't pay attention, you'll get in trouble, or you'll get bad grades. Positive motivations could be rewards, good grades, pizza parties. And so because these conditions are so obviously different and exclusive, you cannot have one without, or you cannot have one and you cannot have both at the same time, I mean. It's obvious that under the conditions that normal schooling takes place in, say high school, middle school, in the United States at least, learning cannot occur. Only in rare circumstances where the motivation, the internal motivations of the students line up with the subject matter. I like to go back to that popular idea that kids don't want to learn. It's not that kids don't want to learn, it's that they don't want to be taught. How do we know kids want to learn, though? We know that they hate being taught, as is ample evidenced by studies investigating the emotions that students feel while at school, such as stressed, nervous, anxious, infuriated. Infuriated is a bad word. What's the word I'm thinking of? Frustrated. That's it. Oh, that's not what I wanted that to look like. So how do we know that students like to learn then? Because all we've done so far is shown that kids don't like to be taught. Well, an easy way to do that would be to look at a society which does not have a system of teaching and see how kids handle their free time. What do they do? And researchers have looked at this. They've looked at the activities of teenagers in countries that don't have systemic education. And they find that those kids are much more motivated to learn. They're much more interested in learning new things. A great example of this would be when in rural India, in an underdeveloped province, where there was no widespread education, researchers left a computer whose operating system was, of course, in English, in the middle of the town, with no instructions, and then left. And when the researchers came back, they had discovered that those kids had taught themselves how to program and how to use that computer. Which also means they taught themselves English to use it. And they did this with no external instruction or information. So obviously those kids had not only the motivation to learn about this computer, but they also had the ability to figure it out on their own. Nobody had to force them, nobody had to teach them for them to learn this, which is quite impressive. It also shatters lots of ideas that we have in the West about children and motivation in schooling. I think I'll put a fireplace here. Or the big oven, not the fireplace. This bakery is coming together quite nicely. I do think it's a testament to the efficiency of our education system that it is so effective at suppressing children's desire to learn, which is an inherent biological trait of our species, that it is almost common knowledge and completely uncontroversial to say that children do not want to learn. Which is also a sad thing. I didn't really go into this bakery build with a plan, as it might be very obvious. I feel like it's coming together quite nice. Let's go back down to the temple here and take a look. See what we've made. I'll probably add some fences along the side here, give it some more spruce look, instead of just having it be a lot of stone. But for now, I think that looks quite cool. Well, I'd call that a successful build. But I think it's time to get back to camp. As you can see, I still haven't made a path yet. Maybe one day. If you like content like this, don't forget to subscribe and have a nice day.